I have been extraordinarily blessed to work with so many amazing Irish filmmakers. The talent is unbelievable. It's an extraordinarily gifted country, creative country, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
Hi, folks, and welcome to another episode of In the Room with 52 Jokers Wild. This week, our guest is Judith Blackburn, director of the Chicago Irish Film Festival. Hi, Judith. I'm about to get cut off at any point now because Garvin's about to dive in. I can see he's twitching. I'm
ready to go.
Oh, there you go. Tell us a little bit about the film festival before Garvin jumps in.
Well, let's see. We're on our 23rd year, and we have brilliantly, in my opinion, presented some of Ireland's best Irish film in feature, documentary, and short. I think we counted the other day in excess of 1,600 films to date, and we've covered every topic under the sun. And it's just grand fun. 4 days of brilliant film.
Is it mainly documentary that you're sort of your feet?
Oh no,
you know?
no, it's always balanced. So usually, I'd say 5 documentaries, 5 features, and 5 shorts programs. Pretty much rounds us out for the 4 days, but they're all brilliant. And so it's, I'm never willing to pick a favorite. I know.
I'm not even going to talk about film anymore. What we're doing is we're going straight to Hey Jude. That's, yeah, are you going to make singing me a sad song and make me feel better? You know, this. Yeah. So well, you're over there.
Because it's Judy's turn to cry.
That's it. So you mentioned in the preamble, which is a bunch of IMs last week, that you come from the Waltons. You're a big family, and you fight at the dinner table about who's going to watch what film. That
sounds like the Finnegans to me.
So you know, you're surrounded by shorts, longs, you know, features, big ones, small ones, musicals thrown in, horror. Whatever genre is going. What does Jude like, though? I mean, are you a horror genre, or are you like the drama at home? Is it a bit of the Waltons, or is it shoot 'em up, blow 'em up? Where's Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Horror.
Now we have you. The horror of it all. And you know, the great thing about horror is, and we're reading a couple of statistics out there, it's the only one that seems to make any sort of money. It has the loyal following. If you have the horror, the right little mix, you have it in your short, you might get a pitch to a feature, you might get some funding, but you have to frighten the bejesus out of us in 3 minutes. And that's what. And is there many horrors entering your festival coming up shortly to a cinema near you?
We have 2. We have Thomas Cosgrove's Hillwalkers, and we have Niall Owen's Gateway.
Right, I'm stopping you right there because that immediately I heard the word Hillwalkers. I knew it was a horror because there's a bunch of cyclists around here that keep on going hill walking in those lycra underwear on the outside, and that's a horror to anybody working in a coffee shop when they walk in sweaty looking for a cappuccino. So I don't know what they're doing. Like what. You know, immediately, hill walkers, you know they're walking through that gateway, going up a hill somewhere into a dark forest with flying monkeys.
Watching them from behind the bushes.
And there's something going to happen next.
Scope, yeah.
So is it a short? Is it a feature?
No, they're both features.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow.
Good God. They got funded.
Yeah.
So they've managed to pull one. Were they made in Ireland or were they made elsewhere? No.
Oh, no, they're both made in Ireland. Hillwalkers is out in the Dublin mountains. And it's just brilliant. 5 city dwellers out for a charity walk.
I told you.
You know, typical Saturday
They were going
morning.
looking for the cappuccino double chip chocolate muffin and got lost on a bloody farm somewhere up the Dublin mountains.
Stumble onto a rural farm run by psychos.
Yeah, that sounds like Garvin's place.
Honestly, all I have to do is look. I just have to look out the window here. Like, I should have just brought the camera down the fucking road and started recording, because that's every second neighbor I have is either shooting your dog or chasing sheep. I don't. It's nutty territory. And rural country Ireland is back in the Stone Age at the best of times. And except for the big sort of Massey Fergusons, apart from, and if you get behind one on a country road,
or John Deere's,
it's a horror.
They're like the John Deere's here, you know what I mean? It's not the Massey Fergusons, you know.
We're very excited that 2 horrors got made. Yeah. They are both features, got funded in Ireland, and actually that should be very interesting to see because
Gateway could have been made in your neighborhood. It was filmed in the Cork suburbs,
right?
And it's some low-life drug dealers needed to repay a quick debt, so they think they'll do a quick harvest of weed, and they find an abandoned house.
Honestly,
well from there.
Again, we're having this problem that I walk down the bottom of the road in my local coffee shop, the same stuff is happening. That's the conversation at the next table half the time.
Garvin has a couple of children, but he hasn't seen one of them for about 15 years ago. And this feral being came out from the top and sort of scrapped. And he was really, really scared when and they had to run down 3 flights of stairs before they could get away. But then they realized it was the daughter. Oh, that's where you went. You went exploring up to the 3rd floor and down into the attic where we haven't actually opened up yet.
You can go missing in most of rural houses. Actually, all you got to do is go for a walk for a coffee, as we say. And you can then get the makings of a horror and bring it to the Chicago Irish Film Festival.
That's it.
All that was a day out with the kids.
Well, actually, talking about that, I've just found some Super 8 film that had sound on it. So I've been working out how do I capture this. And it was My Kids from 30 years ago. And as I said, I visited my eldest son who's living in Alberta, and he saw the video and went, oh my God, I can't believe how horrible I was as a kid. He's just like my son. All the horror stories that were coming out. Yep. And we saw them. That's all you need to do is the family story of the adults trying to cope with COVID while dealing with a 2-year-old who hasn't quite learned to talk yet.
Now, actually, Judith, we were starting this conversation when we said press record, and we were talking about there's a picture behind you for anyone that wants to watch in vlogcast space as opposed to podcast space. There's images involved, and it's somewhere, as you were saying, I think it's a picture of somewhere in Galway, but you were saying it's a picture of where you meant to buy or the house next door, but something prevented you from, it was probably you got a preview of those 2 films, I said, not that village, some other time.
Somehow I just couldn't talk my husband into to crossing the pond. It's like, come on, it'll be fun. It's beautiful. It's a great city. It's loads of culture and things to do. And he's like, no.
No, the word you used there, put the kibosh on, was the word culture. Because you're talking to a man, I mean, and men go, no, you had to start with the pub. Yeah, you're on a good thing. You're on a good thing. Many pubs, 14, you say. That's even better. Your culture. No. None of that rubbish.
He keeps going to the Chicago Film Festival and seeing all these horror stories set in all these lovely places.
Well, that's the great thing. The great thing here is you said you couldn't go and move to rural Ireland or a nice city. Actually, I believe if it was Galway, it's a city.
Yeah,
so Galway wasn't
across
rural.
from the town centre. Yeah,
right. So that's city. Yeah. Now I know city in our language is probably village in yours, but I mean, I'm in a town in the sense of I came from a village. Now, the village has about 2,000 people in it. That's the max. Now, I moved to a town, so we have a crossroads and we have a church in the middle. So that actually is up to about 4,000 people, and we get to use the word town. I think if you have a traffic lights.
I thought that was on the outskirts of it.
Oh, no, this is in the middle of the town. Church. You build a whole main road around a church or a bank, normally. Yeah. It's the same thing, really. But if you wanted a city, Kilkenny is a city. That's the one 30 miles from me. And again, you have to have a cathedral. So if you have a cathedral, 2 zebra crossings, you can actually be a city in Ireland. So you're in Chicago. You're in the Windy City. Are you in, or are you out?
No, I lived in Chicago. Lived in the city. Raised my children in the city. Yeah, no suburbs.
I heard a bit of past. I lived in. So where are you now?
Now I'm in the woods.
You're in the woods.
Yeah,
you're back to that fucking Blair Witch stuff again. No wonder you like the horrors. You're going.
Yeah.
No, I went to the airport in Chicago a few years ago on my way to North Carolina, and I always thought, having been in Ireland for a certain period of time, that I could understand the accents. But I got to the counter in Chicago airport and asked for a coffee. and the girl said something, and I went, I haven't the foggiest idea what you said. How do you help Irish people coming over to understand the Chicago accent, especially the thick Chicago accent?
Speak slowly. I don't know.
Speak slowly. Well, I was trying to communicate to her.
That's it.
That's it, yeah.
George has to lower the volume.
A lot of gesturing.
Yeah. A lot of gesturing.
I've actually got my hands underneath here because normally I'm doing an awful lot of this, pointing at stuff, shouting at people. I'm actually usually bringing an aircraft carrier, like into the room. But no, the one thing we love is we reached out on. I don't even know how we got to talk to you, Judith. I don't even know where it came from. It could have been Facebook, LinkedIn. Are you out there blogging on TikTok? I mean, how did you come across us, or why did you put yourself forward to this madness?
Yes.
I think technically it was rather mutual, but LinkedIn, actually. We reach a lot of people, especially professionals in the Irish film industry, on LinkedIn.
I don't know how you met us there, because we're the unprofessionals on the LinkedIn. We're just out there, courting them in plain sight without them realize they think we're professionals. That's what wins them over. I've been in the industry.
I'm going to have to butt in because I've been in the industry
for
at least 40 years, and I've been working very quietly, usually in post-production and in other areas, which is why my voice is not often heard. And I put all these things together. So it's a little bit different. So I see myself as being professional.
No, I don't. I've taken off the coat now and going, professionalism got me this far, which is absolutely nowhere. So I think if you have to take it from the kids now and go, put that aside and just get out there, make friends, influence some people, upset people. Actually, I think you need to upset a bunch of people as opposed to make friends, because making friends is not actually getting you anywhere. You got to break through, because I think, like you said, you've got a bunch of people in a queue now to get seen in the Chicago Irish Film Festival, but the amount of clutter out there, and in the sense of they can't get to be seen, they can't get to be heard. They want this opportunity to be in the festival. The festivals have nearly disappeared of sorts, online or hybrid, but there's a certain, George told me all about festivals, that it'd be great when we can get to walk that red carpet again, bump shoulders with the high polite, be with the finger food and the nibbles, and to critique and have fun with whatever the hell's going on in the background and at the screen. But are you missing that, or is that there? Are you about to be going live, hybrid, or fully remote virtual? Are you going to be in the metaverse? Where the hell are you this year?
Hybrid.
Okay. So that's half electric and a plug-in.
Yeah.
No, we're very excited to be back in person. We are huge advocates of in-person screening and the environment, the aura it creates. I have watched hundreds of films the last 2 years, at home and virtually. And I'm totally blessed that I was able to hook up to festivals in Europe and to Ireland, and I'm thankful for that. But
they're not so thankful.
Nothing compares to in person. The atmosphere, the people chatting afterwards, bouncing ideas.
George, I've got a little link in here, whatever it's called. It's just like, because you've reminded me of Bono, and Bono's go, oh, no, it's not. Is it Bono? It might be Sinead O'Connor, and nothing compares to you. And what it is Sinead O'Connor. I think Prince did it as well, but it's nothing compares to being there in person, to be with you, in front of you, or whoever the you happens to be, people. And it's like, I hate the virtual, because you don't get that chance to. I think there's people have a chemistry, they have an aura, and it's that's not getting the chance to plug into the next aura, if that makes sense. Do you know
what the daft thing is, Judith? Garvin and I have only met in person 3 times. For the last 2 years, we've been doing everything virtually, and we've been setting a pathway on fire kind of thing. But we've only met 3 times. We've only been in person 3 times because of COVID, but we've made the best out of what we can do with what we have available to us, and I think
so. You're not virtual, you're real. But I mean, there's real people, real movies, real views. But the thing is, the virtual is the word itself is nearly you're virtually doing it. It's not actually doing it. So I want to, get you over to Ireland. You need to bring Chicago to Dublin.
That's it.
Or no, even Kilkenny, Thomastown. But you were nearly going to Galway. We need to get that partnership of our more real, more material. That's what it needs to be. You gotta bring it off the screen and into real life. So we need you back here. That's what we need. You have to move over.
I'm looking forward to coming back. I've got loads of miles saved up to come. So I'm like,
and tell the husband that it's pubs. There's loads of pubs. The Guinness is real. You get to drink it. There's a bit of diddly eye going on in the background with Michael Flatley and his mates. And that's the crack.
He's from Chicago.
No, he's Irish. You know it. I know it. He doesn't know it, but he's actually from, I believe his mother's from Innisteague, which is about 10 miles from here. And, or on the way to Innisteague, there was a little house. And he was here with a big limo. I'd done about 10, at the height of his fame. And we're going, what the hell is he doing with his leather trousers 10 miles from Innisteague? And it turns out, I believe his mother's house is there. So we have a connection. Michael O'Flaherty is a common denominator. Oh, did he have a film? Oh, the boxing film, wasn't it? Was he boxing or something?
It was an interesting film about a short film. I think it was Tears of a Clown. And he plays the clown, and he's been rejected. He falls in love with a Irish premier Irish dancer. And
now where did he get that one from, I wonder?
The theater, and then he protects her one night.
Was it any good?
It was.
Right. How many stars would you give it?
3. 3 out of 4.
You took too long there. No, you were thinking he might be looking, he might listen in. I better give him 3 out of 4. Yeah. No, that was a 1 out of 4 in my books. You have to think about it. So there was no. It's in your mind because it was him. But had it not been him, would you have remembered it?
Oh, sure. I can remember almost all of them.
Oh, that's all the horrors again. They're so ingrained on your brain. You wake up screaming in the middle of the night.
It would be easier to remember an Irish comedy because there's so few.
Most of them actually were meant. No, this is the weird thing. They all were trying to be a hardcore drama, but when you looked at them, you saw a comedy.
What do you see is the difference between the way that you're seeing independent filmmakers making film in Chicago compared to what you're seeing from the Irish cohort over here?
In the genre films, I think they're pretty much consistent. I think what I've admired about the Irish that I see from very, very few other countries, including here in Chicago or the US, are the very fresh social issue films. I think that you have a vote or a voice rises up on an issue, and I don't think 12 months go by, 6 months go by when there's not a film out about it. It's something I admire about the country.
Now, Judith, this is interesting because I'm thinking what's happened is it's industry led. So what starts to happen, the little bit of funding, and the ones that get the funding, maybe from Screen Ireland or otherwise, the funding only comes under the diversity, gender imbalance, addressing the mental health issue of X, Y, and Z. So therefore, it's usually on topic. And so, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's exactly, they're reflecting the voice of where the budget comes from and the assistance from the film board or the Screen Ireland of the world, which again, it's usually get more women in film, get more, address these issues, which again, it needs to be done, but it can also have an imbalance, in terms of what would you have done had you not been given that parameter, if that makes sense.
But that's an interesting side to it because you do have public funding with public support, where in this country, there's no public funding. And so support is much more difficult. And maybe issues that should be addressed aren't because they can't get funding, they can't get promoted, they can't get support. So we're more like, issues like that are more likely to be buried here or not see the light of day compared to in Ireland. So sometimes you think, well, maybe there's one too many, but they're still,
it's
right on point, as you say, right, topically on point, current, where ours tend to,
no, is there
you can go and see a
out?
documentary in our country about a crummy school in the 70s. Okay, it's 2022. I think it's a little late. We need to move forward here. Yeah,
absolutely.
So now again, I suppose, is there something that's not been, like I said, is there something you'd like to see more addressed in the Chicago Irish Film Festival, or is there, are you seeing an absence of something now because maybe there's less indie finance in the market? Is there as many people applying, or is there a shortage? Never mind COVID in the middle of it all. Are the people finding it difficult to get a qualified something out there because of the way the whole industry is moving to YouTube and other realms of sorts? Or do you see that affecting it? Is it more popular than ever?
I'd go with it's more popular than ever. The issue for festivals is the huge amount of online platforms now that are just sucking up content.
Yes.
So it's, I mean, I don't know. I'm certainly not blaming Netflix, but I mean, if you don't know that a film exists on Netflix, you might never find it. It will never come up as you search. You need to do a title search, and then for a lot of festivals, I'm sure. Unless obviously you're part of the Big Ten, your Tribeca, your South by Southwest, your Toronto, your Sundance.
Your Chicago Irish Film Festival, number 7. Yeah, we got you there now. We have your back.
Yeah. They're looking for, it's a much different atmosphere that they're looking for U.S. distribution or Canadian distribution, because a lot of indie theaters and the marquee theaters, deal with Canadian and U.S. distributors. So they're holding their film. And I mean, and one of the things that's broken my heart over the years is they waited and waited and waited, and then it just disappeared, and then they'll come back to us 3, 4, 5 years later, and I'll go, well, there's a whole new crop of films. So there's not,
This is an interesting thing now, whereby we're talking to an awful lot of indie breakout people, let's say in Ireland, which should be an example of England and everywhere else to boot. Right. And they're finding it more difficult to raise finance because we say the more investors are more risk averse. They want to see outs. They're not seeing pre-sales. They're not seeing distribution. They don't know where they're going to make their money back. We said this in a bunch of shows, but that all aside, we have this appetite for creativity. We got great talent that wants to package itself, and then even when it achieves that, it doesn't have an out. The festivals aren't there. There's a queue as long as your arm. And to get seen, the problem is back to the investor again. They don't understand how they're going to get to the end audience of a meaningful payback that will actually warrant them financing it front end. So the shorts are I used to be an accountant. I see it as it's your pitch. That's your pitch to get breakout feature. That's your pitch to get funding for the bigger something, to show your talent and get the funding. So you show you can do something. But now you're going, that's a very expensive piece of something, which you're investing in yourself, time and energy and effort, more likely your own money. It doesn't have a sellable something if it doesn't get the right audience. The audience you're looking for is actually a sales and distributor, as opposed to an end audience that's not paying anyway. So do you think that the festival still has the same punch to get that funding to the next level, given that most of the streamers are now blocking the end market potentially, and there's so much they're taking away the end upside for a sale for investors, or does that make a sense even as a question?
I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't have any idea of what the financial backside is when they get picked up by a streamer. But I know they have. I know the one film I looked at last year, The Boys from County Hell, a horror film, was picked up from by Ireland, the Canadian. No. From Ireland. Picked up by the Canadian distributor Shudder, which specializes in horror. Now, and the funny thing is, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, so in every country, deal separately, Shudder is only available Canada and US. So what the film did, in Northern Europe, Central Europe, where else they might have marketed it, I don't know. Did they get a distributor, or did they just look for local distributors?
I think what you just said, and the way I'm hearing it is the festival is still a fabulous marketing tool. It has focus, and those that are shopping will, like distributors or those type of people, will be looking to see that they don't miss an opportunity. So, right. and I said, and if we can get to that top of the pyramid and get visibility in the festival, it's still the same. If you get those top 10 or top 20, it's to get mentioned, to get an award, get your sticker is nearly probably more important than ever to get seen above the crowd. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with your big festivals, you get a marquee and you get a film review, and that's certainly going to help you down the road.
Do you get many brown envelopes now shoved in like into the back handbag, to try and get it popped up a bit higher there now? Would you have any experience of that in those festivals places?
Fortunately, no.
So you're having them in the wrong place. You had them over here. Now there'll be plenty of brown envelopes. You'll be getting your drinks bought all night. We have to. That's viral guerrilla marketing. You have to go. You have to bring the directors out. And actually, that's something someone mentioned in one of the last shows. Now, Ireland has sent, Screen Ireland have sent their person to LA, and they've opened up a new LA office. I think it's Stephen Davenport, but they didn't give him the budget, LA budget. Yeah. So he's going, I can only bring it to the chipper down the bottom of the road, and a couple of pints, and maybe one coffee and a muffin each. But if you're not empowered with the big Hollywood budget bang for a buck, then you got to walk the walk and talk the talk and look the talk. Otherwise, you're broke.
Well, the other thing is that a lot of filmmakers here are trying to build up an audience through some kind of social media system themselves. So they're actually doing a lot of marketing on either Twitter or TikTok, if they want to go in that direction, and YouTube, so that they can show that at least somebody's watching their materials and trying to move them forward. And I remember I got a short film into the Cork Film Festival, in 2001, I think it was, or 2001, and there's only 2 of us were able to get down there, and some of the other films in there had about 10 or 15 or 20, so they were able to win any audience view to which was the best kind of film. So I went, right, okay, we need to think of a different strategy. But we weren't thinking like social media kids do today about how do you build your audience so that there is the potential to get someone out there. I mean, we're seeing people that have carved themselves careers on YouTube suddenly getting into things like Strictly Come Dancing over here. And now that's leading them on to become presenters. And then they can get gigs where they can get some finance to make their own films if they want to there afterwards. So, I mean, again, it's changing the dynamics, which some of the older folks like me, maybe, and Garvin, perhaps, are finding that it's a little bit of a struggle to try and move into that when we've had to spend so much time even just trying to develop our craft as filmmakers. That becomes a difficult part in the kind of process of what we're doing. And yet the youngsters seem to be able to, move and get an audience and drive people towards seeing their films better than we ever could do before. Does that help when they're trying to pitch their film into the film festivals?
We don't. All of our films come through, for the most part, Film Freeway, the submission platform, and we try not to look at any pre-screening or critic reviews. We take the films at face value. The program committee doesn't like to read about them in advance, or notice that they've been in, a dozen other festivals. Right, they just let them screen raw, which we feel is the fairest way to do it. And so ultimately, it's interesting.
What are you looking for?
We've turned down films that have been in a lot of festivals, and we've taken films that this will be their first.
Yeah.
Lots of times we're just looking for engaging stories, something different, a new way of telling something. Our festival tagline is, films from the land of storytelling. And we really kind of take that to heart. How did they get that across? So, is it a new way?
The film
something
from the
different,
local
something
pubs.
catchy.
Yep.
I mean, we
Well, that
also
sounds
look
like
at
Phil
how
as
it's
well.
going to play in Chicago.
Yeah.
I can't say we don't do that. I mean, how's it going to play in the Midwest? How's it going to play? What is it? If it plays in Peoria, it'll play anywhere. How's it going to come across? Will our audience connect?
And are you restrictive on formats? Like, is it everything 4K or 5K or whatever, 6K, HK, or are people still presenting stuff on HD? How do the independents try to get their films promoted if they're restricted by the resources they have?
No, well, most of it comes through files now. Our big DCP files or 4K files go straight to the presenting theater, to their servers. And then our smaller films get put together by our tech guy. They drop them all into Dropbox, and they render the programs together. I am definitely not going down the techie road.
No, don't worry.
Oh, that's it. It's press play. If it doesn't work, it's call the IT, go turn it on and off again. That's one of the best tech fixes ever out there. If it doesn't work, we're in trouble.
Which is where it comes back to. It needs to be a really good story, and you need to understand storytelling processes to actually get those ideas across and capture the audience through that storytelling process as you go along. And I think that's the ideal thing. It's just making sure that people understand how to tell a good story in a filmic sort of manner, which is one of the biggest problems, especially when we've been dealing with. I've taught a lot of students and trying to get them to understand, simple storytelling, not worrying about the tech, but just deliver a good story has always been a problem. Are you finding that is still something that is dismissing some of the entries that come into the festival?
Yeah, it's funny. We always get enough films. I'm not really saying that correctly, but because we have hundreds and hundreds of submissions and maybe we take 20, 25%, we fill our programs. But I mean, and absolutely, we every year don't take films we wish we could. So absolutely honestly, we have written apology letters to people saying how sorry we are. And if we had more screen space, this year we actually took more because we're hybrid. So we were able to have, and we asked filmmakers, we don't have a physical screen for you, but would you consider being in the hybrid virtual side of the festival? And, they had that option to agree or say no. But I'm, again, you say that about stories. We have, amazing stories that just blow us away. We have a wonderful story about the, I'm going to say it wrong, Quay Co-op in Cork. Is it Key? Key Co-op?
Oh, God. QUAY, is it? Co-op. Right? Yeah. Key Co-op,
yeah. We say it wrong. I don't know. And by Emma Ball. And a fascinating story from, Sean Duggan? I'm going to get this wrong, but Sean Duggan, Keep It a Secret about the surfing. Okay. It's brilliant storytelling. And a film we just loved, is it An Irish Goodbye with young James Martin, I believe, who was in Ups and Downs, about two brothers who have not spent a lot of time with each other recently, and they come together to bury their mom and sell the farm. And the younger brother agrees.
The mom's not too happy. She's still alive. That's the problem.
That's the real horror.
They have to fill a bucket list. And I mean, it's just heartwarming and funny and as Irish could be. And yet it's universal. So every year we are never disappointed.
No, well, wait till we put in our entry. You'll be very disappointed. I know. We'll 100% guarantee on that one now. No. Here we go. And they're taking the holy. We won't even go any further now with that effort. But I mean, actually, I'm curious about statistics and numbers of sorts. And now, again, given you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show that we're touching on gender imbalance, diversity, mental health issues. An awful lot what's coming out of Ireland is up to date. But now at the same time, if you were to do like a finger in the air guess of how many film Irish is female Irish producer director mix of what you've got in front of you, like in terms of women led, is the imbalance being addressed? Is there a bit more freshness coming from the female side of things, or you think it's still dominant male?
I think it's been like last year. Actually, it's interesting that you say that. Last year we had extraordinary presence of women directors and did almost special programs designed around that or highlighting it. But this year, I think we've kind of dropped back to 50-50, maybe 40-60, 60% men, 40% women. And again, it's an interesting thing. We never try to target a film with that in mind.
Because of it. Yeah.
Because of it.
That's perfect. Because I think what's interesting, it's we, myself and George, had many a conversation before going, it's becoming an issue. The story is a story. That the story is the talent. The story is the thing. It shouldn't matter who wrote it, produced, or directed it. Was it good? Was it any good? Do you want to see it?
I would imagine the underlying issue would be way back on the production end. When we get them, we're getting a finished, polished product for presentation. But I think perhaps if you go back to the beginning, was there funding access? Was there a technical support? Was there, creative support? Were people accessible? That I think that we see that in every country. It certainly is a never-ending issue in the United States. I think there was just another article that less than 3% of Fortune 500 companies, or 3% of board members are women. Over half the population is women. So how can't they find any?
No, I always said to George, and it's like, and George would probably agree with this, the women are the puppet masters. We might be out there working, but we know who the bosses are and who's controlling everything. We go home and go, and I had this problem at work now, and what do you think? And they give us the final decision. So indirectly, anywhere you see a male board member, anything is actually, they're just a puppet.
Yeah, it's a matriarch here. That's the thing. It definitely is. And I found that from my granny or my nan, who it turned out had Irish roots. And my brother did a DNA test thing. And it turns out that most of our family, even though I've got an English accent, come from Cork and West Cork and all those kind of places down there. So again, it's just that we're so used to having a female dominant character that we find it very odd that they're complaining that there isn't.
No, George, you just touched on it. Yeah. The Irish, that's the word.
Yeah.
It's very, very famous. The Irish mammy.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Irish mammy rules all. That's it. That's how this country, we should have a president called the Irish mammy. What I mean? In our household, me and the two lads are roughly about 6 foot tall. And my wife is 5 foot. And it took 3 of us in the house to be able to match my wife. Now the boys are gone. That's it. You have no hope, George.
You've got
Bob Hope and no hope.
Bob Hope, no hope. But I mean, at the end of the day, we were off in Edmonton, and we were trying to get back, and we were in Edmonton to try and fly back to Toronto. And we suddenly got there and we're told our flight had been cancelled. And we went, what are you talking about? And I went, let's just see how easy we can get there. We'll just take it. And they said, we've put you onto a flight 6 hours later. And the flight that you were going to get from Toronto, we've cancelled that one. And we're going to put, my wife suddenly sat there and said, that's not happening. We are going on the flight that we originally had in Toronto to Dublin, because that's what's going to happen. Well, I don't know how we can sort this other. Well, you've got to sort it out. You've only got 8 minutes until your flight leaves. There's one at 7 o'clock as opposed to 8 o'clock. Well, then get us on that flight. She made it happen. She just, not being nasty, not being anything else, but she scared the living daylights out of the girl there for some reason. She was going to have her way. She was going to get home, and she was going to get on those flights that we'd planned to be on. And we were going to land in Dublin at the time we expect to be, so that we could be picked up, and I went, wow, that's amazing. Just
that's another saying, George.
Yeah,
that's following on from "don't take no" as an answer. You're meant to get used to about 95 no's. It's not no, never. It's just no,
Absolutely.
not now. and keep on doing and keep on trying. So actually, I've got something here which we used to do before, like when our earlier shows. I looked at the date calendar, and there's a little, could be a motivational saying, could be something else. But I'm actually just happened that this one's caught my eye. And January 25th, and it says, destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. So Are you where you're meant to be, Jude? Have you arrived? Are you starting? Is it over? Are you somewhere in between? What's next?
Actually, that's funny you say that. So this is my last year as the director of the festival.
You're wasting our time. We're trying to build a relationship here. So for next year, we'll have an in, and you're leaving. I can't do
but
that.
she's coming to Ireland. She's coming to Ireland, and she's going to be down in Thomastown working with us. There you go. That's what it's really all about. It's got to be positive. Got to be positive.
It's been 23 years. I hope to stay on to help with programming, but the world has changed, the audience has changed, the delivery has changed, and that's fine. And there are some things I'd like to do. Sounds a tad bizarre. I had a very life-changing accident in 2021. And as everyone who has ever had a life-changing accident will tell you, it changes your perspective. Yep. You take every day as a blessing. And I have things that I want to do that it's time for me to move forward in certain areas. And the festival is one of them. I have an extraordinary board, an advisory committee, and a lot of wonderful, wonderful people in Chicago. So I'm not worried about the festival itself, but, it will be successful without me at its helm, but I'll be in the sides, behind the curtains,
Puppet mastering the Wizard of Oz. We know. Behind the curtain.
Shouting away behind the curtain.
That's it. They're still pulling all those dials. Yeah.
Well, Garvin and I are basically in the same situation. Not that we've had some sort of life-shattering event happen, but we've suddenly got to a point where we realized that the way that we were moving forward was either going to give us a heart attack or high blood pressure and put us in a grave somewhere along the line, that we had to stop and say, we need to rebalance this, because that's not what life's actually all about. And we need to find a way of doing the thing that we would actually love to do. And Garvin suddenly got introduced to the film industry and suddenly went, do you know what? I'd love to be involved in the film industry. And I've spent a lifetime in the film industry or in the TV industry or whatever. And I'm kind of going, there's certain things I'd like to do, and I'm going to stop doing the other things that distract. And that's the key is just, and I mean, for me, I started to learn to play music a bit more. I learned to play the violin in the last 6-7 years, and I have a captive audience in our local church who's put up with me. The cats have started to come back, so they're saying I've got better, so it's not too bad. But I'm pursuing things that I wanted to do when I was younger, but life got in the way and drove, because you're trying to pay your bills, and you kind of go, you have to let those things go. And you suddenly realize, actually, those are the important things now to bring back, if it's art or if it's, getting to meet people and getting to see people and be part of a community. That's something that I think is a special part of what we're doing. And it's motivating us in the way that we want to bring filmmakers together as part of the academy that we're developing down in Thomastown. So I think that's a key. So are you going to share us a little bit of what it is that where your journey is going to take you next?
I think there's a big bucket. Yeah. There's a very big bucket. There might be a hole in the bucket, but there's something on top of the bucket.
There's something there, yeah. Will you share that with us?
Oh, well, no, it's truly just my children are scattered across the country. We'd like to travel more. My husband and I were workaholics when we were young, and every day was filled and planned and organized. And now we just like to have life at a different pace, not have deadlines, not have to be somewhere at a particular time. I'm hoping I'll be able to travel. So it's fingers crossed. I can travel in the United States in a car. Not sure yet whether I can fly. So I guess I could take a boat.
Absolutely.
That's a slow boat to China or something. You don't want one of them.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking of there's a famous American photographer who most of her life was traveling around America oh, her name's almost there, but it's gone from my head. Annie. Anybody remember? But most of her journey, because her dad used to travel as a soldier from one place to another, her photography started. That's it. Her photography. It's just
there was no way
there.
I was going to guess that.
No.
Absolutely
it was in my subconscious. I was trying to pull it out and get it into the conscious part of my mind, but it just wouldn't come. Yeah, and Annie Lubavitch, her most of her travel was that she was taking, because she suddenly saw the windscreen or as a frame. She began to see her life was framed that way, and she loved to take photographs that way. Is there some kind of art form that you're inspired to participate in as you go along in this journey? To maybe
have you got an NFT in the making? Is what I want to know there now.
No, I don't know about that. No, I wouldn't go the NFT way.
Well, actually, I've done photography my whole life. I minored in photography back in school. Huge fan of, Ansel Adams and nature photography and Dwayne Michaels and series work. But I'd also like, no laughing here.
No.
I'd like bits and pieces to write a mystery.
Yes.
Now, hold on a second. Is that a novel or is it a screenplay?
No, novel.
Oh,
yes. Good, because that bloody film industry is a nightmare to get into fucking festivals. Chicago Irish Film Festival is one of the worst ones to get into, and as opposed to the director of it, you can't even get her to return your calls. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I about 10 years ago or so, I decided to sit down and write because I was getting fed up with what was going on, and I wrote a horror story called The Fall, and I wrote a sci-fi one called Hidden, and I got through and published them myself, went through the whole process. I suddenly realized that when we were trying to get it out to publishers, this book, I was looking at the companies that are available and I went, we've got those skills locally. We can do that. Why not just see if we can get it out there? Because we'll have the same problems as we have with films. And I think in the end, I've still sold as many of my books as I would have done if I got it through a different publishing house. So
George,
again,
I think I bought all 4 of them. So
no. I've sold a few hundred of them. I definitely know there's a few hundred that have actually gone out.
Are you going to use the tech, Judith? Are you going to write it as a blog on some sort of app that's going to sort of publish it as it goes? Or are you going to do it with a quill and ink in the background somewhere?
Yeah, I think I'm going with quill and ink.
Oh, brilliant.
Stephen. Yes. It's not Stephen King done a little bit of, someone does it with a pencil and
Oh, yeah, he does. His whole family, I think I read, sits and writes because his son-in-law and his daughter also write and his wife. Yeah. I believe. Yeah.
They can't stand talking to each other. That's the whole point there now. No one they've nothing to say to each other in that household. They all go off and write in little notes. I think they think they're off in little Pride and Prejudice time. There's no tech at all. They've gone backwards.
I like the blog idea. Because, then it would be like,
self-publishing
with the little segments. And then you get to the next one, you catch them up, and then
Well, when we went into the lockdown, I started reading, I think it's Judith Cameron's The Artist's Way. And I got into writing every day 3 pages of a book, just to get into the practice of writing. I'm actually in week 90 now. I'm still doing it. And it's actually,
good for you.
You get up in the morning and you kind of go, right, I've got to do a couple of things. And I'm going to write then. I'm going to set this 45 minutes to actually write at least 3 pages, if not more. And you suddenly realize you're opening up your creative energies and you're really getting into a certain way of doing things. And I highly recommend it. If you are trying to start getting writing and you're worried about how to start to do your mystery or anything like that, just writing those 3 pages every day, wherever you find yourself, just find yourself a little bit of space to write just 3 pages. You'll suddenly find that it starts to get you working through the process. And then you'll be able to put together your own stories, because it's like doing a piece of exercise. It's just an exercise. Now, my sister started doing it and she didn't know what to write down. She said, I'm writing 3 pages. I'm writing 3. And it just got her going. And she started to do her thing. And she ended up starting to paint, because that particular process gets you either doing your photography, your painting, your acting or performing. And for me, it helped me with music as well, because music becomes something really interesting to explore. But just carrying on the writing, making it a discipline. And one of the things I do I have been doing is I only write on a Monday to Friday. I don't do the weekends because I find that if you stop at the weekends, you get revitalized to start it again on a Monday. So it's a Monday to Friday activity. And I'm flicking through some, and I handwrite. So I have these journals that I fill it in. And I think they call it the B5 size. It's a slightly bigger size book. And I'm flicking back through it and kind of go, oh my God, look what I was writing about 3 weeks ago. What was I doing? And you suddenly find that you've got information that could help you with your novels, regardless of where you want them to go and what kind of genres that you want to take them in, because you're starting to focus on little extracts of life that become important to you.
No, George, I'm disappointed as a mystery. I'm going, like, you started this whole conversation.
Oh, no, I think mysteries are good.
No, you like horror. I'm going, why isn't it a horror? I mean, it's the one thing. You've done 24 years of the festival circuit. You're in the genre horror, Irish horror about fields and gates. And, you should be oozing this in your blood now to get out on the, so it has to be a horror mystery. You can't be doing a mystery.
All right.
Now, are you going to
write your mystery? Write your mystery. I love mysteries as well.
This is your last chance stance, big bang with the festival. Are you going to go out on a high burn of some description? Is there something you're doing different this year that you're going to stamp into it to say bye-bye and good luck?
I don't know. It's
erase all the files. What you do is you put a virus in there.
No. There's the mystery then.
I'll spend all the money. Surprise.
Is there a prize? What's the prize? I don't like. You win the Palm d'Or, wherever it is there. Do you get a couple of quid or do you get a big sticker? What is it?
Actually, no. The only prizes we've ever given is we pay for your visit to Chicago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, when you get there, do you put them up on an Airbnb? What's going on next?
Yeah. No. We always put them right there by Michigan Avenue and the Art Institute and the Bean and the John Hancock. And
that's a cardboard box now. I mean, do you actually put them in the hotel or is it just out in the street corner?
No. Always a hotel. And treat them to a dinner or two. Hope they visit the city. And I can say probably 75% of the filmmakers that have come over the years have family here of some sort. Yeah, so we're never surprised. And many come to see.
Right. You win. Now, like, let's say it's the Waltons, like your family now. Do you pay for 7 or you got to pay for your sister yourself, or who gets paid for?
Just if they want to plus one in their room, that's their business.
Right, yep. But you pay for yourself now. And you have to take 2 sausages and a rasher off the breakfast bar in the morning and put it into a separate little plate. I'm only messing. But
you can see the sense of humor that's here,
Oh, I've no sense of humor at all. That's it. That's why I'm not out of the box too often. But no, I'll let George. Sorry.
Oh, right. Just tripped me up there. No, I actually, going back to the mystery, I think it's actually really good. And I think it's great to see the ambitions. The other thing is that don't be shy in what you're doing, because I think that's really, really important. And you've given yourself this goal, and it doesn't matter to anybody else. So, because I know you're sort of saying, oh, it's a mystery and whatever. No, I think you've found this thing that you're passionate about, and you've got this great idea about going on a journey, visiting, on a road trip as well. And I think that's fabulous.
I have it, George. I have it. You just put the imagery in my mind. I see Billy Connolly on his road trip on the Harley Davidson motorbike, and you're going, you need to get that. There's your thing. You need to get that big Sir Harley Davidson type with sidecar for the hubby and the leather gear, and you're off on the magical mystery tour across the states. And keep your daily blog. Would that be an option now? Do you ride in a motorbike at all?
No. I like the car with the heated seats and the air conditioning and the
No, that sounds radio. More. You're now going Route 66 with the nice open top, is it?
With a Cadillac.
That's it. Old motels and funky diners and out of the way museums.
Yes.
My husband's into what they call environmental or found art. So we stop at a
Yes.
lot of unusual places off the road to see people who have turned their whole house into a piece
Oh,
of art. It's quite fun. It's quite
Well, as
fun.
long as you're not cooking up the roadkill on the way, that's
No.
Yeah, no.
No, I
Okay.
think that's. I mean, that's one of the things that I know that. I mean, my mum's watching these TV shows about, all the antiques and all those kind of things, and it's starting to look at what is history. I mean, that's fascinating because we are living in a time where the history that we think that we're creating could be very easily lost because of what it's made of. And the artifacts that are here are going to be gone. I mean, we've been going through the garage and going through the loft, and we're suddenly finding all these bits and pieces. And kind of go, I can't even look at these tapes because the technology has changed so much. It's only that I've managed to pick up a little film sort of reel-to-reel thing that I could start to play these reels. And I've been trying to work out how can I get the sound off of these films. But any VHS or Betamax or even DVD tapes or HDVD tapes that I shot in the past, we now don't have that technology because it's all onto cards. And how long will it be before the cards that we have aren't there? So I think that is very important to see how creative people have been with whatever resources they had to and even I remember down one of the streets that we have here, there was an old filling station, but it was really like the 1950s and it corroded. But even the way it corroded formed its own form of artwork, which was lovely to photograph. And I think that's something that would be, exciting to have on that journey to go explore what people in the areas that you're talking about going to might have. It reminds me again of what Annie, what's name, was doing with her photography, and I think that's fabulous. Is your husband into artwork or photography, or is it just does he just like looking at those things that you might come across?
He's actually on the board of Intuit, the Center for Creative and Intuitive Art here in Chicago, and so he's very supportive of outsider art brut. Which is, if people aren't familiar with it, they're artists who are self-taught, self-driven. Usually, they don't exhibit. No one knows they exist frequently until they die.
You're talking about me here. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm an artist.
Absolutely.
I have nothing to exhibit. I tell everyone I'm an artist. But they go, have I seen your work? Oh God, no.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't see my work. You wouldn't be in that exclusive group. So it's very boutique and niche. So, but the thing now, what's interesting there is you're saying it's intuitive. I've only taken the words intuitive art and going, I think we're all artists. I think there's a story in everybody.
Yes.
One of our shows was called The Story of You. And therefore, we're on this planet. We're trying to find a purpose. We don't know what the story is, what the right story is for ourselves. And most of the time, we're on the wrong page. We're in the wrong chapter. We've gone down a rabbit hole. And I think that's what we've all pulled ourselves back out of the rabbit hole going, we need to rewrite this book. We need to write the right story before we run out of time. And because now are we going to have enough time to leave evidence of our story, for the next generation? And that's the great thing about the films. There's people's personalities and talent exhibited in these captured moments. And that's why I want to get into this industry. I want to leave something else other than a spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers in it that no one really cares about. So leave a stamp, leave it like it could be a fairy story, or it could be a biography, but it'd be nice to see this, can we materialize this creativity for someone else that they can enjoy it? So that's I think where we're finding that common factor now is it's all about the story.
Well, I think it's the artifacts. It's leaving artifacts that are tangible, because we're getting into the digital world that we're getting into. I mean, the biggest problem that we've had is that years ago we took photographs and we'd have a box full of photographs that we'd have a look at, and you kind of go, oh, look, there's Aunt Annie, or there's Aunt Jean, or there's Uncle Tom, or whatever. I've lost so many hard drives full of photographs, and I know my sister has, and all those memories have gone. And as I said, the Super 8 that was able to, I'm going through capturing the sound and putting them together to show my kids and my grandkids, things that their parents used to do and all that kind of stuff, which I think is fascinating. And we don't know what it is that we're doing. If you think of Anne Franks, Anne Franks as a 13-year-old was keeping a journal. She didn't realize how important that document she was creating was going to be. And we just don't know what it is that we are creating in our lives that could influence somebody else in about 20, 30, 40 years time, that if we don't just do it, there's a loss. It's going to be lost to generations to come. So I think that's why it's exciting to hear, your journey and where you're going to go. I'm looking forward to maybe in a few years' time seeing the results of that journey, which I think is going to be fantastic. We've actually been going for just over an hour now, and I've got on screen here battery low 10%. It's going to stop on one of the tablets there, so we'll have to pull it to an end. It's actually been lovely talking to you, Judith. I've loved the passion that you've had for the film festivals and the information that we've learned about the horrors and the horror films that are going in there that are coming from Irish backgrounds, that gives us a sense of hope. We've also talked about the issues that sometimes the filmmakers are having trying to get their work screened, which I think is lovely. But also to hear your own personal story about the fact that, you're coming to an end of a career, but you've got these other passions that you'd like to do. And, you want to go off and explore those. I think that's lovely, because that actually excites us, because that's what we're doing. That's encouraging us to think, that we've got to go and do that before the time does run out and before we get to the end credits of our own lives, which I think is important. So is there anything else you'd like to add that we didn't give you a chance to talk about, just as a final few comments?
Oh, I think the only thing I'd truly like to say is that I have been extraordinarily blessed to work with so many amazing Irish filmmakers and producers, actors, editors, composers. I mean, the talent is unbelievable. It's an extraordinarily gifted country, creative country. And it has been, for almost a quarter of a century, one of the most important and highlights of my life. After my family and my children and grandchildren, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And many a sleepless night, but I wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah. And I think the family, the importance of family is because we often work in a world where it seems as though that what we're doing is more important, but the family then loses out. So the focusing on the family is something important. I know Garvin's is in the same kind of way of thinking, which I think is great. So Garvin, have your last words as well.
Oh, I'm always about me, as you probably guessed by now. And I'm just so disappointed in Judith. It's took me 55 years to get to this point, just to get to the chance to get in front of her, to get maybe work on something this year and get it into the Chicago Irish Film Festival next year, and she's fecking off. So, I mean, I'm not, just as it's about to get interesting, you're leaving. I'm not happy, Judith. I'm not happy. But maybe you'll come visit with us at a later date. That'd be fantastic. I'm
always available to be on a jury. So you just let me know.
Oh, but that's terrible. Because good. If you're on the jury, you're giving out the sentence and I'm the accused and I'm not looking forward to the verdict. So that's another story for another day.
I mean, we're hopefully going to be producing the stuff that we do. We'll put into some little film festival of some nature. So it'd be great to have.
We'll have you as guest juror on our little microfilm festival in Thomastown in the coming years. You can come in virtually if you like, as a hybrid something. But I mean, you'd be more than welcome.
Okay, well, look, folks, we have to call it a day at some point. So thanks very much, Judith, for joining us this week. And thanks again, Garvin, for your interruptions and all the other bits and pieces. And hopefully you'll come and join us again.
It's my job.
Yeah, I know, it's your job. And next week, we'll be here again with In the Room with 52 Jokers, which I got right this time. So thanks a lot, everybody, and look forward to next week. Bye for now.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications.